Okay, picture this. Queen Camilla and her family have found themselves right in the middle of one of the most tangled and dramatic royal scandals in recent memory. It involves a stunning stolen brooch, a bold attempt at an illegal cover-up, and Prince William stepping up to firmly say no to the Queen consort in front of the entire royal institution. This isn't some minor family disagreement. This is the kind of story that genuinely shifts how people view the monarchy as a whole. What's even more surprising is how quietly it all started before exploding into something much bigger. Let me walk you through exactly what happened, step by step, because the details here are absolutely wild and reveal so much about power, family loyalty, and institutional integrity. The story traces back to 2017, when the Governor-General of Canada presented Queen Elizabeth II with the Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake brooch. This exquisite piece was no ordinary token of goodwill, but a meticulously commissioned work honoring her 65 years of service. Crafted with rare beluga sapphires from Baffin Island and accented by diamonds, it embodied the enduring bonds between nations and the monarchy's role as a repository of cultural heritage. In royal custom, such state gifts are not personal acquisitions. They belong to the crown, entrusted to the royal collection for preservation and eventual transmission through the line of succession. These artifacts represent more than aesthetic value. They symbolize diplomatic history and institutional continuity, demanding rigorous protection against any notion of private appropriation. Understanding this framework is essential to grasping the gravity of what transpired later. Following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022, the British monarchy entered one of its most extensive periods of administrative transition in modern times. Tens of thousands of artifacts, historical documents, and treasured items required meticulous cataloging, relocation across multiple royal residences, and careful integration under the new sovereign's oversight. This process, while essential for continuity, inevitably introduced operational gaps in the inventory and tracking systems that had long safeguarded the royal collection. For those who have observed the institution over decades, such transitions reveal the inherent vulnerabilities that arise when vast collections of national significance are in flux. Protocols that functioned smoothly in stable periods can falter under the weight of comprehensive reorganization, creating windows where oversight might slip and unauthorized actions could occur undetected for some time. It was precisely within this environment of controlled chaos that the safeguards around state gifts like the Sapphire Jubilee brooch proved insufficient, underscoring a fundamental truth about even the most venerable institutions. No system is impervious to human error or the pressures of rapid change, and vigilance must be renewed with each generational shift. In the midst of this transitional disarray, Camilla's sister, a private citizen holding no official title or constitutional role, managed to gain access to the restricted vault and physically removed the Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake brooch. She retained possession of this significant national treasure in her private home for several months, treating it as a personal item rather than the state property it unequivocally was. An independent audit eventually exposed the discrepancy, revealing the complete absence of any authorizing paperwork, signed transfers, or legitimate documentation. Under established British civil law, such unauthorized possession of public assets carries clear legal weight, representing not merely a family indiscretion, but a breach with broader ramifications for the rule of law as it applies to those connected to the monarchy. This incident forces a mature consideration of how privilege can intersect with institutional boundaries, raising uncomfortable questions about whether long-standing family ties might inadvertently erode the very foundations of public trust that the crown depends upon. The implications extend beyond the immediate object, touching upon the monarchy's credibility as a responsible custodian of diplomatic gifts and historical artifacts meant to endure across reigns. When the independent audit finally brought the discrepancy to light, Queen Camilla found herself in an acutely difficult position. Her sister, as a private citizen, faced the very real prospect of criminal proceedings, police involvement, and potentially damaging public exposure in the high courts. Determined not to allow this to unfold, Camilla moved with calculated resolve during a particularly sensitive window when King Charles was undergoing medical recovery and required rest. In what has been described as a carefully orchestrated effort, she gained access to his private quarters and oversaw the preparation of official-looking documents that framed the entire matter as a personal gift authorized directly by the sovereign himself. This protective directive was intended to retroactively legitimize the brooch's removal, effectively transforming an unauthorized taking into a legitimate transfer shielded by sovereign immunity. Such a maneuver would have closed off avenues for investigation, prevented search warrants, and halted any deeper legal scrutiny. In the context of royal family dynamics, this intervention reflects the profound protective instincts that often arise when loved ones face serious consequences. Yet it also highlights the ethical complexities of wielding influence at moments of institutional vulnerability. For those who have followed the monarchy through various crises, this episode serves as a sober reminder of how personal loyalty can test the boundaries of proper governance, especially when health concerns limit a sovereign's direct oversight. Camilla's strategy was deeply rooted in the palace's long-standing traditions of handling internal family matters with discretion and minimal external disruption. For generations, the institution has operated on an understanding that certain disputes are best resolved behind closed doors, relying on deference to royal authority and a shared interest in maintaining stability. She likely calculated that a directive bearing the king's seal, issued during his period of recovery, would discourage challenges from within the household and allow the issue to dissipate without broader consequences. This approach drew upon established protocols that prioritize family harmony and the avoidance of public scandal, betting that traditional respect for monarchical orders would prevail even under scrutiny. While understandable from a human perspective rooted in familial duty, the plan underestimated emerging expectations around transparency and legal consistency in modern times. Mature reflection on such strategies reveals the enduring tension within powerful families between the desire to shield one's own and the necessity of upholding standards that sustain the institution's broader legitimacy over decades and centuries of public service. Princess Anne has long earned respect for her unwavering commitment to royal duty, and her response in this matter exemplified the steadfast guardianship she has provided over the Royal Collection Trust for many years. Upon receiving the protective directive that sought to reframe the brooch as a personal gift, Anne examined the documents with careful scrutiny and refused to accept them outright. She maintained with characteristic directness that the Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake brooch had always been classified as state property, a diplomatic gift belonging to the crown rather than any individual, and that no person, irrespective of their closeness to the throne, possessed the right to treat such treasures as private possessions for distribution to family members. Far from engaging in diplomatic maneuvering or seeking a compromise that might smooth over tensions, Anne insisted this was fundamentally a legal issue requiring proper handling through established protocols. She took the time to compile a thorough dossier that included detailed inventory records from the transition period, comprehensive provenance documentation tracing the brooch's history as a state gift, and clear evidence demonstrating the lack of any authorized transfer. This material was then delivered directly to Prince William at Kensington Palace, ensuring the heir apparent received unfiltered facts rather than filtered interpretations. Her actions reflect a lifetime of service defined by principle over convenience, reminding those who have followed the royal family that true institutional guardianship often demands quiet resolve in the face of internal pressures that could otherwise undermine the monarchy's credibility and long-term preservation of its heritage. When Prince William reviewed the evidence presented by Princess Anne, he reached a crossroads that would reveal much about his understanding of leadership and the future direction of the monarchy. He had the option to handle the situation in the more traditional manner, through private family discussions, negotiated accommodations, and efforts to contain the matter internally in order to protect reputations and avoid public discomfort. Instead, William chose to confront the facts directly, treating the unauthorized removal as a clear legal violation that demanded accountability rather than mitigation based on familial connections. This decision was not made lightly. It reflected a thoughtful assessment of his role as the future king and the necessity of upholding the institution's integrity above short-term harmony. He communicated clearly to his legal team that no exceptions would be made for private individuals connected to the royal family when it came to the misappropriation of state property. This moment of decisiveness illustrated a maturing approach to power, one that prioritizes the rule of law and institutional strength over the protective instincts that have sometimes defined previous generations. For mature observers of royal affairs, William's response stands as evidence of principled leadership capable of distinguishing between personal loyalties and the broader responsibilities required to ensure the monarchy's enduring relevance and respect. In a move that demonstrated considerable strategic foresight and institutional wisdom, Prince William William orchestrated the establishment of the Royal Heritage Trust as a dedicated independent public entity. This involved the careful transfer of numerous significant historical artifacts from Queen Elizabeth II's personal collection into the Trust's protective framework. The structure was deliberately designed to legally bind these assets firmly to the direct line of succession, creating robust firewalls that prevent any reigning monarch or their consort from exercising personal authority to redirect them for private favors or family arrangements. By removing these treasures from the realm of individual discretion, the Trust acknowledges the perennial reality of potential conflicts of interest within powerful families, while eliminating the practical means through which such conflicts could compromise the Crown's holdings. Established officially on June 10, 2026, this new body rendered earlier protective directives legally ineffective and ensured that state property would remain safeguarded irrespective of changes in personal circumstances or shifting family dynamics. For those with long experience observing governance in venerable institutions, this represents a mature evolution in how the monarchy protects its legacy, balancing deep respect for tradition with pragmatic measures that secure continuity across generations and reinforce the Crown's role as a responsible steward of national heritage. With the new institutional safeguards in place and previous directives nullified, the legal machinery advanced with impressive efficiency and determination. On the morning of June 10, 2026, High Court enforcement measures were promptly activated, authorizing a targeted operation at the private residence where Camilla's sister had been holding the Sapphire Jubilee brooch. A professional task force carried out the recovery with precision, thoroughly documenting the process and ensuring the artifact's safe return to its designated place within the royal collection. The speed and finality of the action allowed virtually no window for further negotiation, legal maneuvering, or attempts at reversal, underscoring the seriousness with which the updated protocols were now being enforced. This was not a symbolic exercise, but a concrete demonstration that breaches of state property rules would be addressed decisively through proper judicial channels. The operation's effectiveness highlighted the practical impact of William's leadership and sent a clear message throughout the royal household about the new standards of accountability. In the broader context of royal history, such swift resolution exemplifies the institution's capacity to self-correct while upholding dignity and the rule of law. Shortly after the brooch's successful recovery and return to institutional custody, the Princess of Wales attended a significant official state engagement and chose to wear the Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake brooch prominently upon her ceremonial attire. This decision was anything but incidental. It constituted a deliberate, elegant public statement that required no accompanying press release or explanation from Kensington Palace. By appearing before assembled crowds, dignitaries, and international observers adorned with this historic piece, Catherine conveyed with quiet authority that the artifact had been fully restored to its proper place within the direct line of succession. Royal tradition has long understood the communicative power inherent in such choices of jewelry and adornment. They serve as visual threads connecting past reigns to the present and future, silently affirming continuity, legitimacy, and responsible stewardship. The contrast with other pieces drawn from personal collections worn by different senior royals that day further illuminated the clear distinction between items belonging to the institution and those held privately. For individuals who have followed the monarchy with a mature eye over many years, this appearance represented a graceful and dignified punctuation mark on the entire episode, reinforcing the outcome through symbolism rather than rhetoric while upholding the expected composure of public royal duty. The resolution of this scandal marks a substantive cultural and operational shift within the monarchy, moving away from an older paradigm that often prioritized unconditional family loyalty toward one that places greater emphasis on institutional integrity and consistent adherence to principle. Historically, royal families frequently managed sensitive issues through private channels designed to shield relatives and preserve outward harmony, sometimes at the expense of stricter accountability. In this instance, the response deliberately elevated the protection of crown assets and the application of legal norms above personal or familial protections. This does not suggest a diminishment of family bonds, which remain fundamental to any human institution, but rather their placement within a clearer framework where the long-term health and credibility of the monarchy take precedence. Such a transition reflects a maturing perspective that recognizes the institution's survival and relevance depend upon demonstrating fairness and reliability to the public it serves. Those with the perspective of decades observing observing royal affairs will appreciate this as a measured evolution, one that strengthens the crown by aligning its internal practices more closely with the expectations of contemporary society while still honoring its historic role. Central to the resolution of this entire matter was the unambiguous and unwavering application of legal accountability without any exceptions, extending fully to those with the closest ties to the royal family. Instead of defaulting to discreet internal settlements or quiet arrangements that might have spared family members from public or legal consequences, the process deliberately channeled the issue through formal high court mechanisms and enforcement procedures. This ensured that the unauthorized possession and attempted cover-up of state property were addressed according to established civil law, ultimately rendering any protective directives issued in the king's name legally ineffective. The precedent set here is profound. It establishes clearly that proximity to the throne confers no special immunity when institutional assets are involved. For individuals who have spent years contemplating questions of justice, power structures, and ethical governance, this approach is both necessary and commendable. It upholds the moral authority of the monarchy by demonstrating that the rules are not merely performative but carry real weight, thereby reinforcing public confidence in the institution's commitment to fairness and the rule of law across all levels of society. The implications of these events extend far beyond the recovery of a single artifact and touch upon the fundamental mechanics of monarchical governance in the modern age. By establishing independent oversight structures such as the Royal Heritage Trust and insisting on proper legal processes, the institution has taken concrete steps to protect itself from internal vulnerabilities stemming from family dynamics or personal influence. These changes signal a deeper commitment to transparency, self-regulation, and accountability, qualities increasingly expected by contemporary society. The firm handling of the scandal suggests a willingness within the monarchy to evolve traditional practices where they risk compromising integrity, all while preserving the essential values of duty, continuity, and public service that have sustained the crown for centuries. Experienced observers of institutional behavior will recognize this as a strategic adaptation that strengthens rather than weakens the monarchy, equipping it to maintain its unique constitutional role with greater resilience and legitimacy amid ongoing public scrutiny and societal change. This entire affair invites a sober and contemplative examination of the intricate relationships between power, privilege, and the establishment of lasting precedent within one of the world's oldest continuous institutions. Privilege is an inseparable aspect of royal life, carrying with it both extraordinary opportunities and profound responsibilities. When exercised without sufficient restraint or regard for institutional boundaries, it risks gradually eroding the public trust and respect that form the true foundation of the monarchy's enduring legitimacy. The precedents forged in response to this scandal around accountability, independent safeguards, and the clear limits of personal authority demonstrate that genuine power achieves its greatest strength and moral authority when it is guided by consistent principle rather than momentary convenience or familial preference. Even in families blessed with immense influence, the perennial tension between private loyalties and broader public duties remains a constant challenge, one that demands ongoing vigilance and periodic renewal of standards. Such reflections, shaped by decades of observing human nature and the behavior of powerful establishments, underscore the quiet wisdom inherent in confronting difficult realities directly in order to build more resilient frameworks that honor both the present moment and the long arc of history. Following the recovery of the brooch, the palace's deliberate embrace of strategic silence emerged as one of the most effective and dignified aspects of its handling of the situation. Rather than issuing lengthy explanations, defensive clarifications, or carefully crafted narratives designed to shape public perception, the institution allowed the concrete facts of the legal process and the artifacts return to stand without elaboration. This approach is deeply rooted in long-standing royal traditions that place high value on composure, restraint, and the avoidance of fanning unnecessary controversy around sensitive internal matters. In our contemporary environment of relentless media cycles and instant digital commentary, such measured silence often projects greater authority, finality, and quiet confidence than any number of public statements could achieve. It successfully limited the potential for prolonged speculation while preserving the monarchy's traditional dignity during a period of necessary internal adjustment. Those who have studied the nuances of institutional communication adaptation over many years will recognize this as a demonstration of mature judgment, understanding precisely when less truly is more in service of long-term stability and respect. Catherine's decision to wear the recovered Sapphire Jubilee Snowflake brooch during a formal state engagement carried profound symbolic weight that transcended mere fashion or personal preference. In the rich language of royal tradition, jewelry has long served as a powerful medium for conveying messages of continuity, legitimacy, and rightful stewardship without the necessity of spoken words. By prominently displaying this significant diplomatic gift before assembled crowds, dignitaries, and international observers, the Princess of Wales offered a graceful yet unmistakable visual affirmation that the brooch had been restored to its proper place within the direct line of succession, now secured for future generations rather than vulnerable to private claims or family arrangements. The appearance stood in quiet but eloquent contrast to other pieces from personal collections worn on different occasions, subtly illuminating the critical distinction between treasures belonging to the crown as an enduring institution and those held in individual possession. For those with a sophisticated, lifelong appreciation of monarchical customs, protocol, and historical symbolism, this gesture provided deep reassurance about the monarchy's ability to navigate complex internal challenges while faithfully preserving its timeless role as a living bridge that connects the legacies of past sovereigns with the responsibilities of the present and the promise of those yet to reign. Drawing upon the accumulated wisdom, triumphs, and occasional missteps of many generations of royal tradition, this episode offers several enduring lessons about the delicate art of sustaining an ancient institution through periods of change and scrutiny. It teaches that family loyalty, while a fundamental and deeply human value, must be thoughtfully balanced with uncompromising commitments to legality, ethical stewardship, and the broader interests of the crown if the monarchy is to preserve its moral authority and public respect over time. The decisions made here build upon historical precedents that have repeatedly shown both the subtle dangers inherent in unchecked privilege and the lasting strengths derived from consistent, principle-based governance. They provide practical guidance for future leaders on how to address complexities with foresight, integrity, and a clear sense of institutional purpose. Ultimately, these lessons remind us that great institutions like the monarchy do not endure simply by clinging rigidly to every past custom, but through wise, measured evolution that honors foundational values, while intelligently adapting to the expectations and realities of each successive era. As one contemplates the years and decades ahead, the British monarchy appears considerably strengthened and better prepared for the future by the new standards and protective frameworks that emerged from this challenging episode. The creation of independent oversight structures, such as the Royal Heritage Trust, combined with clearer expectations around legal accountability and institutional boundaries, establishes durable safeguards that prioritize the monarchy's collective duty and long-term integrity over individual or short-term familial considerations. This evolution positions the crown to sustain its relevance, dignity, and public support more effectively in a modern world that places increasing value on transparency, fairness, and demonstrable commitment to principle. Under these refreshed standards, the monarchy can continue to fulfill its distinctive constitutional and symbolic roles with heightened confidence and resilience, even as societal expectations continue to evolve. The path forward reflects prudent, forward-thinking adaptation that deeply honors the richness and continuity of its long history while confidently securing a stable, respected, and purposeful place for the institution in the generations yet to come. When viewed within the expansive continuum of royal history, the events surrounding the Sapphire Jubilee brooch stand as a genuinely defining moment in the contemporary chapter of the British monarchy. The episode encapsulates both the profoundly human challenges that naturally arise within family-centered institutions of immense influence and the monarchy's demonstrated capacity for principled reform and thoughtful self-correction when faced with difficult realities. As greater historical perspective develops with the passage of time, this chapter is likely to be remembered as a pivotal assertion of integrity, foresight, and mature leadership that helped shape the institution's trajectory well into the future. By choosing to confront uncomfortable truths directly, rather than seeking temporary avoidance or compromise, the monarchy reaffirmed its commitment to standards that transcend any single reign or personal relationship. In the final analysis, this episode serves as a quiet but powerful testament to the enduring strength and resilience that can emerge when an ancient institution organization faces internal tensions with wisdom, courage, and an unwavering dedication to its higher constitutional and historical purpose. It marks not an ending but a significant milestone in the ongoing story of an institution that continues to evolve while remaining true to its essential character.